All right, Mike, we're going to start with a conversation about who has a realistic chance to go number one overall. We've now reached the point in the process, and we're still months away, where I have seen all four of these quarterbacks number one overall in a given mock draft.
Yeah.
How many players do you think right now actually have a realistic shot of going number one?
To me, it's two.
Two.
Realistic being like more than 5%. Like that I actually think can go number one.
Okay.
One's Bryce Young, who obviously we've mocked number one, I think, in every mock draft that we've done so far this year. Just because we think it's the best quarterback. And that's that. And then two being Will Levis, just because I could see a team falling in love with tools, falling in love with the NFL translatability in terms of playing under two former NFL offense coordinators, NFL ready from that standpoint. Obviously, a size, athleticism that's better than the likes of a guys like Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. But to me, that's the guys who have above, like, I'll say 10% chance right now of going number one overall. And it would be someone that would, like, buy in, like the Colts, who's, like, traditionally trait-driven franchise, trait-driven scouting department that would draft someone like Will Levis number one overall. That's it to me. I would, I'd be floored if the Bears stand pat and draft a position player.
Right.
I just do not see that happening. Anytime a quarterback is available that is of that caliber, you're lying to yourself if you're just losing value if you just sit at number one overall and draft one of those defensive players.
There's too many trade candidates.
Exactly.
Like they can move back too easily and still get one of those blue chip defensive players. Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia, Will Anderson, the edge rusher from Alabama. It's too easy for them to take a trade, get out of number one, and still get one of those guys for them to stick at number one and draft one of them.
Yes, exactly. And then with C.J. Stroud, I do just think he comes with too many question marks in that Ohio State offense. His ability to play from tight pockets under pressure, that you're going to draft him over likes of Bryce Young just because of the size. Like, that's the conversation between the two of them. It would just be because you're worried about Bryce Young's size. I don't see that happening. And then with Anthony Richardson, he's just too much of a project at this point. And not to say that I'm not buying in. Like, he's, I think, top 12 on the PFF draft board. I would draft him highly, for sure. I would take that chance. But there's a difference between taking that chance after a couple quarterbacks have been off the board and that's your only option versus choosing him over the likes of a guy like Bryce Young, in my opinion.
See, this is bad radio, Mike, because we're supposed to disagree and, shout at each other back and forth, and that's how this works. Stephen A. has shown us the way. Yeah. But I actually agree with almost everything you said there. What I think is interesting, though, is that, like, this class, more than most, I think, it's kind of like, what are you scared by or what do you buy into? Like, each one of those four guys, there's something to be terrified of, right? Bryce Young, obviously, it's the size. C.J. Stroud, it's the fact that, like, outside of that Georgia game, he was bad at quite a lot of things. And then the Georgia game, it's like he was good at them, those things. So how much do you weigh one game against a really good opposition versus everything else? Yeah. Levis, obviously, you've got a bad final year. You've got a lot of questions there. And then Anthony Richardson being the giant project. So as much as I'm kind of in lockstep with you that I think it's Bryce Young and then Levis is the guy that I would turn to if I'm going in the other direction away from the size things, I can kind of see an argument, though, where other people see it just the other way, right? You buy into the fact that, one game against Georgia in the playoffs shows he can do it at the next level against NFL defenses, and C.J. Stroud is your guy. Or if I'm pivoting away from the size, I just terrified of those small, thin guys, I'm going for one of these monsters. Well, give me the guy with the super freak athletic tools rather than Levis, who's good tools, not great.
Yeah. With Richardson, though, I guess, like,
because that's the one gaining steam right now,
yeah,
right? There's a lot of talk of him going number one.
I would bet more money on Richardson going number one overall than Stroud. I'll just say, obviously Stroud better on the football field, better quarterback right now, but we're still projecting. You're still projecting multiple years out, and with Richardson, there's real reasons why he may not have been as polished as the others, and real things that I think are clean-upable, are fixable. That's a better word than clean-upable. That's an actual word. Clean-upable, not a word.
There you go.
That are fixable as you go forward. And I just actually wrote about it on PFF.com today. But it's like the things that Josh Allen, that he's going to get the comps to, that he's the comp to in the PFF draft guide, kind of had and then got fixed where he could play from the pocket. He could play under pressure and keep his eyes down the football field and didn't care if guys were bearing down on him. Anthony Richardson has that. Has that just like innate ability to block all the rest out and still play the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Now, he throws wildly inaccurate more often than not. 53% completion percentage is a tough pill to swallow, and that was Josh Allen at Wyoming, who was just throwing heaters and fastballs and way overstriding and had things obviously technically wrong that now he's fixed. Richardson has some of those, but I think he's like, you could see Josh Allen's flaws were so obvious in his mechanics that now are great. Like now he's one of the best mechanically quarterbacks in the NFL. He has cleaned those up wholesale. I think Richardson will still be, there's some of that on his tape that leads to inaccuracies, but a lot of it is just, I think he's just going to be an inaccurate dude. So I do worry about that part of his game.